So for me, the question that Indian cities really help you think about is actually a little bit a question of time and transformation. There are very easy narratives around the grandness and the pace and the rapidity of urban transformation. Indian cities are large, they are mega cities, there's massive scales of urbanization. And there is this tendency to think, particularly of cities like this, as those that are constantly being changed, restructured, economically restructured, particularly through the power of capital. And actually, I think, but when you look at Indian cities, the story is much more of continuities and fixities than it is of change and large-scale transformation. So there's a distinction between the sort of theoretical language of large-scale change and then the actual city, which has the ability to absorb, deflect, avoid, slow down structural transformations. And neither the incremental everyday gets to sort of win, and neither the large-scale structural forces get to win. And I find this tension fascinating because it tempers our theoretical claims of structural change and the grand narratives of the logics of those structural changes, and forces us to say, well, actually, cities have a remarkable way of holding together certain forms, whose outcomes are actually really varied. Some people will call them just and useful, some people call them inefficient and corrupt. But that tension to me comes forth in Indian cities in many ways. And I think that thinking a little bit about how certain transformations don't occur is as important to think about how actually structural factors are very powerful. So what the cities do is that the complexity they offer you offers evidence for each argument. You look for transformation, it's absolutely there. You look for stasis, it's absolutely there. And so that the humility that the city gives you is to be able to sit and say, are you able to resist moving too quickly to explanation? Are you able to also not then take contradictions and try and systematize them into logical contradictions, but actually really believe that the city is always that is beyond explanation, that is beyond fixity, that is beyond language. This doesn't mean you don't make arguments. It's about a certain humility about the arguments being a part of a whole, right? That we only get to move towards these kinds of horizons. And then the question shifts, which is to say, what can you do with what you know now, with the degree of certainty you have now? Which ironically is the way most Indian citizens live in our cities as well. So I think there's a nice way in which the act of thinking and writing is happening through living. The city itself is holding these narratives, right? And maybe in some way, some of the closest writings that I've read academically about Indian cities are ones that actually follow the writing the city is doing about itself, that actually listen more carefully, that are actually see themselves as chroniclers, as opposed to folks that explain and structure. But they take that chronicling and give us ways to understand it and listen to it and be able to listen to it and absorb it. And I think that's the kind of practice that I think is really worthwhile, right? Our cities are infused with language, but that language is not just discursive language. It is the language of practice. It is the language of institutions and actors and movements and mobilities that is speaking all around you as a form of writing.